assistance. If you've been injured, I'd like to help.
Spencer Callahan is the one to see. Call 387-2323.
LA filing number
16. Jackson, KNXX, Donaldsonville, and WDGL HD2 Baton Rouge. This hour brought to you by Spencer Callahan Injury Lawyers, LA 21-12681. Offices in Baton Rouge. Now, The Hunt Palmer Show. You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Locking down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in! Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Wednesday. Working towards the weekend. July 4th holiday coming up tomorrow. We've only got 2 more hours of work to get there for us, and hopefully you're already knocking off of work and getting ready for a long weekend. We do have Jacob Beck here, who was nice enough to return from vacation to work for a couple hours and then have a 4-day weekend. Impressive effort by Jacob Beck.
Thank you.
Cassie Spicali is also here, and we're fired up to be with you for the next 2 hours. Matthew Bruni is going to join us in the second hour. He's just wrapped up a series over on 3 about LSU's football opponents coming up this fall. We'll talk to him briefly about that. Stuart Mandel wrote an interesting piece on The Athletic that we're going to kind of break into 2 different segments. We'll start with the SEC in football in 15 minutes, and then in the second hour we'll get to the rest of the country. He looked at realignment, where all the new teams are, and then took all the Power 4 teams, I guess it is now, and talked about the impact that realignment will have on them, whether it's positive or negative. It's What If Wednesday, so we got some time to get to a few of those coming up. There's been some transfer portal news away from LSU that we will get to. The NFL teams and their under 25 talent, I think you're pretty well aware of where the Saints stack up there, but we'll get to it in the second hour. Fired up you are here with us. It should be, hopefully will be, a really exciting, I guess from now, like 55 hours for LSU football as far as recruiting goes, based on what the experts, the guys that we lean on for recruiting information, are telling us as far as July 4th and transfer portal. It's too late to do that for this coming football season. They're going to have to play with what they've got, and they've got a lot of numbers. They've just got to make it work, and that's Bo Davis's first job here in Baton Rouge. But job 1A is to go continue to restock the shelves, and he's certainly making every effort to do that. This first commitment date on July 4th, and this prospective commitment to LSU, is a name that I don't think you're going to have a lot of hard time remembering. Zion Williams, not Williams' son, but Zion Williams is a 6'4", 330-pound defensive lineman from Lufkin, Texas. Lufkin is basically between Shreveport and Houston in East Texas, and he is announcing his commitment tomorrow. Big dude, interior defensive lineman. TCU's been on him. It's right there kind of in their backyard. Texas has certainly been on him as well, but the inclination for some time has been that LSU will win out in the end there. And we'll find out tomorrow on the July 4th whether or not Zion Williams gets in the boat. But that would be a great start for Bo Davis to the weekend. We thought that tomorrow Brandon Brown would make his announcement. Brandon Brown is a 6'1", 290-pound interior defensive lineman from Melbourne, Florida. He committed to Texas back in December of 2023. But we know that there have been some changes since that happened. Namely, Bo Davis has taken the defensive line job at LSU, where he was at Texas. And Brandon Brown has been interested in LSU since Bo Davis made the move over to Baton Rouge. And 94% of the picks over on 3 suggest he will flip from Texas to LSU. I'm just speaking in generalities here. I can't speak specifically to every single case that's ever happened in. But generally speaking, when someone is committed to a school and decides they're going to have a commitment date while committed to a school, probably not to the one they're committed to. That wouldn't make a ton of sense, no? You wouldn't commit to Texas and then turn around 8 months later and then recommit to Texas. That doesn't happen a lot. Now, signing day, you can get anything. Anything can happen on signing day. You can be committed to anybody and flip at the drop of a hat, and that does happen on signing day. But to recall a commitment date, I think LSU probably feels pretty good about where they are with Brandon Brown. We thought that would be the 4th of July. He decided today, we'll bump that back to the 5th of July. Shea Dixon of On3 reporting that. So you will have to wait a little bit longer, but it feels like LSU's in a really good spot for Brandon Brown. That would be 2. Zion Williams on the 4th of July. On the 5th of July, Brandon Brown. There's another announcement set to come on the 5th of July, and that is Damian Shanklin, who is a 6'5", 235-pound edge defender from up in Indianapolis, Indiana. He's also a 4-star. He's the number 1 player in the state of Indiana. We know that LSU's head football coach spent a lot of time in the state of Indiana. I don't know that they heavily recruited the state of Indiana. I would just suggest that it was the backyard, but they realized they had to recruit nationally, and if you're going to recruit somebody from Indiana to Baton Rouge, that's nationally recruiting, and it feels like LSU's done a very, very good job with Damian Shanklin. He's got 3 choices that he'll choose between coming up on Friday. It's LSU, it's Ohio State, and it's Alabama. He used his 3 official visits to go see those 3 schools, and the prevailing thought from the folks over at On3 as well as 24/7 is that Damian Shanklin will, in fact, pick LSU. None of this is set in stone. We understand that things do happen at the 11th hour, both prior to commitments and on National Signing Day. That's the nature of recruiting. That was the case pre-NIL. It's certainly the case post-NIL. But the thought from those who cover recruiting is that LSU will land all 3 of these defensive linemen. They would add these 3 guys to Jesse Harold, a 4-star edge from the Tampa area, and that would give them 4 very highly thought of defensive linemen, 2 on the interior in Zion Williams and Brandon Brown, who are 330 pounds and 290 pounds respectively, and then 2 on the edge with Damian Shanklin, who's 235, and Jesse Harold, who's in the 225, 235 range as well. This is vital to the health of the football program. You've got to be able to win in the trenches. This is as cliche as it gets. It is not breaking news. I'm not the first person to say it. I'm not the 4,000th person to say it. I'm the millionth person to say it, but it doesn't make it any less true. And I have concerns about LSU at the line of scrimmage this year, honestly, on both sides of the ball. And you would sit back and go, wait a second. The offensive line, the best one in the country, they can pass block like crazy. My question is, will they be able to dominate at the line of scrimmage in the running game? Because that's vital. And on defense, you've got to stop the run and you've got to affect the passer. And if you can't do those things, you have no chance. I don't care how many guys you got running around in the secondary calling themselves DBU. If you can't rush the passer and you can't stop the run, you've got no chance. And that's the biggest concern with this LSU team entering the 2024 season. And none of these 3 guys that I just mentioned, Zion Williams, Brandon Brown, Damian Shanklin, none of those 3 guys are going to help you this fall. But that's my concern about this fall, is that if you can't stop the run and teams are constantly in 2nd and 4 and constantly in 3rd and 2 and constantly converting 3rd and 2, and then you can't affect the passer, and guys, when you do get them to 3rd and 8, have a lot of time to sit back there and throw, you have no chance. Last year, LSU could not stop the run and could not affect the passer. They got no pass rush, and they couldn't win the point of attack, and they gave up 1 billion points. It was slightly under 1 billion, but it was bordering on 1 billion. And you just cannot win with that. Not with a Heisman Trophy winner and 2 first-round draft picks at wide receiver, not with the immense talent they've got coming in at running back, not with the stability they have at quarterback. It does not matter. If you can't win the line of scrimmage, you have no chance. And here's the deal. LSU went out 3 years ago and found Brad Davis and brought him in to be the offensive line coach. And the offensive line was in shambles. And right now, many people out there suggest that LSU's offensive line is the best in the country. That's the transformation that went on with a great position coach at the helm. We all feel like Bo Davis is in that category as well on the defensive side. And he's inherited what I would consider a mess. Maybe they prove me wrong. Maybe those guys go out there and absolutely play lights out and LSU's defense vaults back into the top 30 nationally. But I feel like that's probably unlikely. I feel like LSU's defensive line is a mash unit right now, and they're going to have to try to patch it together. But the thought is, with Bo Davis at the helm, that you can quickly turn this around. They brought in some really, really highly thought of defensive linemen from the state of Louisiana this year, Dominic McKinley, Gabe Relaford. That theoretically is kind of like that first step in Brad Davis's first year with Will Campbell and Emory Jones. You get those guys in the boat, they become kind of pillars, and you just keep adding to it, adding to it, adding to it, adding to it. And hopefully you can add these 3 guys over the next 2 days to Jesse Harold to Dominic McKinley, to Gabe Relaford, and all of a sudden you start to fortify that defensive front and get back to playing the type of football that LSU has played with its great teams. I don't have to tell you. Back in 2003, Lavallee, Spears, Hill, that's one of the best defenses we've ever seen. They were phenomenal at the point of attack. 2011, Michael Brockers, Benny Logan, Sam Montgomery, Kiki Mingo. You got first-round pick. You got guys who played in the league for a very, very long time in Logan and Brockers. That's how you win. Caleb Chason and Tyler Shelvin and those guys on the 2019 team. The great 2007, Glenn Dorsey. Those teams that had great defenses, yeah, they had awesome DBs. Yeah, they had great coordinators and coaches, but they won at the point of attack consistently. That's what LSU has got to get back to. And you can't do that really fast. You can try with the portal, but Brian Kelly has shown that what he wants to do is build it brick by brick, and this is part of that. So, again, none of that's written in stone. None of it's guaranteed for tomorrow, but I'm going to trust the guys who do that for a living with On3's recruiting prediction machine and with 24/7's crystal ball and all that would suggest that you're going to get good news from Zion Williamson, Brandon Brown, and Damian Shanklin over the next 50 hours. And we'll see. We'll talk about it on Monday's show when we come back. All right. Stuart Mandel, very, very interesting piece on realignment and what it means for every Power 4 team in the country. He thinks that it is going to really benefit some teams. He thinks it's going to hurt some teams. Let's dive into what he thinks about the Southeastern Conference teams and its effect on them coming up next.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show.
Every shot, every goal, every bet, ESPN Bet has got you covered for the biggest moments on a road to a championship. The exclusive sportsbook of ESPN is the only place to find special offers and promotions from your favorite ESPN shows and personalities throughout the playoffs. New users can get a bet reset up to $1,000 in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. So download ESPN Bet today. What a play. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700 in partnership with LeVare's Lake Charles. Terms and conditions apply. See app for details.
Our listeners fire up their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
Bayou Ford has $10,000 off F-150. $10,000 off the new 2024 Ford F-150. And all new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 7-year, 100,000-mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you. Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram is taking $20,000 off new 23 Ram 1500 trucks. We're open for business in our beautiful new showroom and taking $20,000 off the powerful Ram truck. All new Bayou vehicles come with a 7-year, 100,000-mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Farming is a way of life for us. It's not something we get up in the morning and dread going do. It's just something we go to bed at night looking forward to getting up to go do. John Deere equipment is...
Musso, join us for a Wednesday edition of AFR presented by Pluckers. In for Matt. One more day. The college baseball portal deadline has passed, and we'll update the latest for the Saints and Pelicans off seasons. It's Wednesday's AFR 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
As you all know, 2 days ago, conference realignment took its most recent form. You saw Texas and Oklahoma come into the Southeastern Conference. You saw Stanford and Cal go over to the ACC. You saw the Big Ten poach a lot of the Pac-12 schools that they wanted. You saw the Pac-12 bottom feeders kind of migrate into the Big 12. And so Stuart Mandel took all that information, and he took every team in what is now the Power 4, and he graded them on a 5 to -5 scale. I'll explain. If he thought that conference realignment was phenomenal for you, you got a +5. If you thought it was pretty good, you got +3. You get it? If you thought that it didn't really matter to you at all, then you got 0. And if you thought it was really, really bad for you, you got -5. So that was the worst it could get. 5, the best it could get. I think it makes a lot of sense. And I'll be honest, I think he did a really good job with this. And I agreed with a lot of what he had to say. I'm going to get into some of the ones from around the country that I thought were interesting in the second hour. But for now, let's just dig into the SEC and kind of what he thought. And I agree with a lot of this. I'll actually, interestingly enough, start where I don't necessarily agree a ton. He said that the 2 schools that would benefit the most were Alabama and Georgia. They were +4. I don't necessarily see where Alabama and Georgia benefit a ton from Texas and Oklahoma coming in. I don't think it hurts them in any way, but I would have put them closer to 0. As he writes it, I don't expect post-Nick Saban Alabama to make a 12-team college playoff. I don't expect post-Nick Saban Alabama to make a 12-team college football playoff nearly every single year like I do Ohio State, simply because of the depth of the SEC, but it's still one of the small handful of teams built to succeed in any era. So, and he says the same thing about Georgia. It's basically like, I think that the fact that in this new era we have a 12-team playoff, that helps them more so than Oklahoma and Texas coming in. So I guess I'll play along with that as well. He actually gives LSU +3 on this, says the Tigers have won 3 national championships in this century, but they might have played for even more were there a 12-team field. They would have made 9 by now. Of course, they may also fire more coaches frequently for missing the playoff. That is an interesting piece to this 12-team playoff. I think that a lot of people are looking at the 12-team playoff and going, the teams like Wisconsin, the teams like Ole Miss, teams like Texas A&M, these teams that have reeled off a 10-win season here or there, but we haven't really felt them as a threat at the very, very top of the sport, they actually can get in now. And that 10-win season that gets them in feels attainable. Maybe at Ole Miss or Wisconsin, you didn't feel like you could go 12-0. Like that wasn't going to happen like Georgia's done, like LSU's done, like Michigan's done, like some of these teams have done. That doesn't feel as attainable as, oh, we can just go 10-2. And that's a big help to them. But I also think it's still very, very difficult for them to win a national championship because you have to get there and win those games. And generally speaking, I find it difficult to believe that those teams are going to do that. However, it's not as difficult, and call me a homer if you will, but I believe this, it's not as difficult for me to look at some of the LSU teams that didn't make the quote-unquote playoff, BCS championship game, whatever the case may have been, time to time. What about the 2001 team that was rolling offensively and ended up playing in that Sugar Bowl against Illinois? Like, did anybody want to play that offense? To a greater extent, did anybody want to play LSU in 2006? That team that had Jamarcus Russell and Dwayne Bowe and Buster Davis and LaRon Landry and that whole crew that went and just crushed Notre Dame. If we got a 12-team playoff, that team's a problem. Yeah, they lost a couple of games. Yeah, Hurricane Katrina, not a great situation for them. You lost a big lead to Tennessee. You were completely out of gas in the SEC championship game. But by the time they caught their breath, like, did anybody want to play them? 05 and it was 05. That was 05. 05 team, same thing. They ran out of gas, but they were really good, and they would have gotten a 12 team. And the 06 team that did lose to Auburn because Jimbo didn't let Jamarcus throw it, and did lose to Florida, who eventually won the national championship. But, like, did anybody want to play those teams? Anybody want to play LSU in 2012 at the end? They gave Alabama all they wanted. And those teams might get in. And so I think that's a nice benefit in terms of winning a national championship for a team and a program like LSU that has teams that may lose 2 games but still has the ability to get red hot and rattle off some wins. I kind of like that. Now here's a couple of the others that I really do agree with. He gave Texas a +3, and I completely agree. They now jump into a pool where they're going to get more money from television contracts than they were, even with the Longhorn Network. The beast that is the SEC Network is going to feed them exceptionally well. And they now don't have to fight off the SEC. You can come play in the SEC. Don't play at Texas in the crappy Big 12. Come play for us, whether that's A&M, LSU, whoever, in the SEC. Now that can't be used for them. So I absolutely think that that Texas benefits a bunch from coming into the SEC. But by the same token, he gives Oklahoma a -3. Why? Well, because of the expectation. If you were listening back on Monday when we had Brandon Drum on, he covers Oklahoma. And he said, since the Big 12 started, Oklahoma has won half the league titles. Half. They will not do that in the SEC. You can't play your C+ game that you were using to beat Kansas State, that you were using to beat TCU, that you were using to beat Iowa State. That won't fly in some of these SEC venues on the road. It goes without saying at Georgia, at Alabama, at Tiger Stadium, whatever. But even some of the other ones, I mean, there's even more. There's more now. It's A&M, it's Texas, it's Tennessee, it's Florida. Like, I haven't even dipped into the Starkville and Oxford and Lexington yet. There's just more up at the top. Keep in mind, Oklahoma has never played at Texas. So what's the toughest road venue in the league they play in? At Oklahoma State? Is that it? At Baylor? Well, now you got to play real road games. And the same thing goes for Texas to an extent, but I think Texas, with it being in that state, I think that A&M being next door and having that ability to pitch the SEC, I think there's a little bit of a differentiator there. So I kind of agree with the way that he chops that up. Now, we are fully in agreement here. The bottom of the league gets hurt by bringing in these two programs. Your Vanderbilts, your South Carolinas, your Kentuckys, your Mississippi States, your Arkansas. He's got them all on the negative side. Arkansas -2, completely agree with Texas coming in. Kentucky -3. He actually adds in that Kentucky piece that, hey, you're not in the SEC East anymore. And that's true, they're not. That doesn't exist. So you don't get guaranteed Vanderbilt anymore. You don't get guaranteed Missouri anymore. You don't get guaranteed South Carolina anymore. Now, you know, you play Mississippi State and Arkansas and whatever, but like those were guaranteed games on Kentucky's schedule, and Mark Stoops used those games to win 9-10 games. Tennessee was asleep for a long time. Kentucky used a little bit of that late. I think this hurts them. And then when you are South Carolina and Vanderbilt, two programs that have enjoyed very, very little success, just adding two big brands that are potentially on your schedule is not a positive. I'm completely with you. He says Auburn gets a -1. I think that's just based on Auburn kind of having a seat right below the elite of the elite. They've had great teams. They won a national championship. They've gone undefeated. Like, they've had a real proud program. They've also had more down years than a lot of the teams. More down years than LSU. More down years, I think, even than Florida recently. And adding two SEC teams and two big brands like that may not be a huge benefit to them. He's got Missouri as a -1. I agree with that. He's got A&M as a -2. I completely agree with that. Just because we talked about their rivalry with Texas and even Oklahoma to an extent, and now not being able to sell. We're in the SEC. They're not. So I think I really kind of jive with most of what Stuart Mandel says about this. The only 0 he has is Tennessee. He says that it just doesn't affect the Vols all that much. He writes, the Vols are still playing rivals Alabama, Florida, and Georgia for the next 2 seasons while adding Oklahoma. That's rough, but Tennessee's collective is strong, has the resources and recruiting cachet to reach occasional college football playoffs. Don't know that that's a lot different than where they necessarily were previously. So it's a mixed bag, and I think that you can paint with a broad brush here without going to individual lines and say, hey, the baddest dudes on the SEC block are still bad dudes, and they're going to be fine in an era where you can get 12 teams in. The bottom feeders are taking a hit here because you're potentially adding another loss or 2 onto their schedule. The teams that are directly impacted geographically, Texas A&M, speaking to 1, maybe Arkansas to another extent 2, those teams potentially take a hit in recruiting. I think for Texas, it elevates you. For Oklahoma, lower your expectations from the Big 12 just a smidge. You're not going to win this conference 50% of the time. You're not going to win this conference 30% of the time. So it's a different world. And then for some of the teams right there on the outside looking in, like Ole Miss, maybe the 12-team playoff, even though you've got a tougher league, maybe a 12-team playoff, you've got a better chance to climb into the college football playoff. And then I think for LSU, his thinking is you're still going to recruit like crazy, you still got a lot of money, and hey, you could contend for a national championship even if you don't play perfectly, which they had to do in basically 19 and 11 from September 1st through Christmas. You don't have to be perfect. Got a little bit more runway there. So I find that fascinating. I find that interesting. And I got to tell y'all, like, we've talked about this, and y'all know my feelings on it, but I'll echo them here in early July. Like, I'm good with this. I'm good with Texas and Oklahoma coming in. I'm good with the 12-team playoff. Like, I'm okay that you're not going to play Auburn every year. I'm okay that you're not playing Mississippi State every year. I'm okay that you're not going to play Florida every year. I'm okay that you're not going to play Alabama every year. Like, this is big-time football. They're going to be very interesting games, and LSU is going to be in the mix on November 1st far more often than they're not, and that, to me, is a good thing. I posed a question on Twitter earlier today, and the poll just wrapped up. It says, we all know where this is me speaking on Twitter. We all know where this is headed, but if you had the choice, would you go back to the conferences as they were in 2000 with Miami and Virginia Tech in the Big East and the whole Pac-12 there and A&M and Missouri in the Big 12 and the 12-team SEC? Would you go back to that, or would you form 2 super leagues, get rid of the rent-a-win games that we play every September in the second to last week of the year, go to a 12-team playoff and look more like the NFL? Beck, you're listening to that. I don't know if you're looking at my Twitter, but would you rather go back to 2000 the way it was? Would you rather play it with 2 super leagues and no rent-a-win games? One, what do you want, and what do you think the Twitter poll said?
I would assume that the Twitter poll said that they don't want the rent-a-win games and they would not want to go back to 2000. I think most people don't enjoy watching LSU win 45-3.
Mm-hmm.
It's not an enjoyable experience. It doesn't put butts in seats. So I can't really see the reasoning other than the fact that the tradition, and also just I think I understand somewhat from the team's point of view that it is helpful to have those games to have a game like atmosphere and play a game kind of like a preseason game.
Yes.
So that from that point of view, I understand it, but at the same time, it just doesn't really make sense for anyone to want those games.
So you want the super leagues too?
Sure.
Okay. Twitter poll: 60% say they want to go back to 2000. 40% say they want the super leagues.
Wow.
I will tell you this. This is a powerful thing with people. There is a huge difference in people's minds with LSU playing Auburn and LSU playing Oklahoma. Like, that is a big deal to some people, and I get that. There's an emotional attachment when you go into Tiger Stadium and that Navy jersey comes out of the tunnel. It's something you've seen your entire life. It creates an emotion. You remember a lot of things, and that's all very, very powerful, and I'm with you there. But to me personally, if it's kind of nameless and faceless. If they are 8-0 and they're ranked 3rd in the country, whether they come out of there screaming Boomer Sooner or War Eagle and LSU's on the other sideline, like, I'm ready to go. Like, that's how I feel about it. But I do understand that people yearn for that tradition, and that's what you're seeing in this. Go back to the 2000s conference. They want to play Florida, they want to play Auburn, they want to play Bama. They don't give a damn about playing Texas. I think that's the feeling of people.
And people will probably feel that way for a little bit, but eventually those rivalries were formed over years of playing against each other. So whenever there's going to be a game, just like it took a while for A&M, but you had the 7 overtime game, and that becomes a rivalry. It takes something like that to happen for a rivalry to be built. So I think that will happen over time.
I just saw something, and this is completely off what I was planning on talking about, but I noticed this because I was looking it up on Monday. Norman, Oklahoma is only like 5.5 hours from Shreveport. And that surprised me a little bit. I also did not know that Norman, Oklahoma was 20 minutes away from Oklahoma City. Kind of thought it was out in the middle of nowhere. And like we had the Oklahoma guest on Monday. It's like, I think people think it's out in the middle of nowhere. Like, it's suburban Oklahoma City, which I didn't realize either. So I will make that trip eventually. My parents live right there. My sister lives right there. Like, I can cut that drive in half real easy, zip up to Shreveport, and then 5 hours is not much of anything. That's the same as Oxford to here, which I've done a couple times. So I think geographically and in terms of in some stuff that is built up, like that game will get interesting. LSU played Oklahoma for a national championship in 2003. In January of 2004, LSU played Oklahoma in the semifinal in 2019. They're going to be good. I think that's going to be an incredible environment in the last week of the season in Tiger Stadium. So I'm here for it. We'll see. But if you want to read more of that story, you can see it over at The Athletic. Stuart Mandel wrote it. We'll dive back into that story with some of the national storylines on it that I found interesting in the second hour. When we come back, it's What If Wednesday on The Hunt Palmer Show.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boudreaux's Electric. A lot of activity down there in the Atlantic and now in the Caribbean. Inevitably, it's going to make it to the Gulf Coast. That's just the way it goes around here. Protect yourself from power outages. Give yourself the peace of mind of knowing that your power is not going to go out. Whether you're a homeowner or you're a business owner who owns your commercial property, if that's the case and you want that power on, maybe not for a hurricane when everybody's going to evacuate and go home and productivity's down anyway, but those nasty summer storms that we have that roll through, our power goes out pretty often. We've got a generator because we got to be on the air. So we make that happen. If you don't have a generator at your commercial property, at your business, call Boudreaux's Electrical. They are happy to service commercial accounts. And I promise you this, you're not going to hear me get on these airwaves and start talking about the VIP package that you can pay X amount monthly at Boudreaux's Electrical for. Nope. That's just part of being a Boudreaux's Electrical client customer. That means you're going to be treated like a VIP. You just work with Neil and Melissa and the crew that's been doing it for 40 years, and they handle their business, and they handle your business. It's Boudreaux's Electrical. You can find them online, boudreauxelectrical.com, or you can give them a phone call, 985-397-1562. It's 985-397-1562. That is Boudreaux's Electrical.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local.
Independence Day from all of us at Live at Lunch. We're taking Thursday and Friday off, but we'll be back Monday, and Jimmy and Charlie will be hosting once again at Walk-Ons in Bruley, the West Side, as we recap the sporting weekend. Live at Lunch, 11 a.m. Monday on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
For those of y'all that are in the car headed somewhere for your 4th of July holiday and you're hanging out with us here on this Wednesday, we certainly appreciate it. Travel safely. Have a safe and happy Independence Day. I'm headed up to False River for the next couple of days. Family's coming down from Shreveport. Aunt and uncle are out there, so very much looking forward to that. Wherever you may be spending Independence Day, we appreciate you hanging out with us on the way to celebrate that holiday. All right, it's Wednesday, middle of the show. That means it's time for a little What If Wednesday.
Time, space, reality. It's more than a linear path. Where a single choice can branch out into infinite realities. Follow me and ponder the question, what if?
All right, first one here. What if you could have seen one LSU baseball signee who signed out of high school actually play for LSU?
I don't know if people saw this earlier. The Futures game has got a couple of LSU former signees in Justin Crawford, Carl's son, who was in the class a couple of years ago, as well as Robbie Snelling, who was in the class 2 years ago. He was in the class that had Paxton Kling and Brady Neal and Jared Jones and Ethan Fry and all those guys. And obviously Chase Shores in that class and Griffin Herring's in that class, and Robbie Snelling was a big left-hander in that class as well. So those two guys would have been fun. I think the answer for me, based on his style of play and the fact that I never got to see him hit with a metal bat, was Joey Gallo. Joey Gallo is a 40 home run guy in the major leagues. Now, he struck out a ton in the big leagues, but those guys are all really, really good. You see that guy against some midweek pitching, that guy against some Sunday starters back in the day against SEC teams. I could see Joey Gallo doing some real damage. I mean, there have been a few. Jacob Mizorowski was in, I believe, the first class. He was in the class right before the national championship, and he is skyrocketing through the Brewers system, throwing 100 miles an hour, striking everybody out. So that would have been really fun to watch him on the staff with Skeens at the same time. That would have been the best 1-2 maybe ever in college baseball. But I think the answer for me is Joey Gallo, big left-hander hitting it off or over the Intimidator with a metal bat. That would have been good to see.
Any pitcher that you can think of that would have?
I think Mizorowski is the answer that comes to mind the most quickly. I mean, I'm thinking about guys that have made it, and I don't recall as many pitchers. I mean, Bryce Terang's hitting leadoff every day for the Brewers, and he was in LSU signing class as well. I can't think of any pitchers that come straight to mind. LSU's actually done a pretty decent job of getting some of these pitchers to campus. I mean, Gosman was a huge recruit that ended up coming, and so I mean, Mizorowski is the one most recently that's been absolutely dominant at the minor league level. So I can't come up with a great one there.
All right,
I mean, Snelling's in the futures game. He did pretty good 2 years ago.
All right, next one here. What if you got unlimited time to win the hot dog eating competition?
So I just looked this up because I saw that on the sheet. Joey Chestnut won with 62. So essentially the question is, how long would I need to eat 62 hot dogs?
Yep. How many can you eat? Let's say, like, how many could you eat in an hour?
In an hour, I think I could eat
3.
No, I think I'd eat 6 in an hour.
Okay. But
I would have to slow down eventually.
Yeah, like,
I think in a day, it's reasonable to think that I could eat 25 or 30.
Yeah, probably.
So it would take me 2 days to win the hot dog eating competition. How long do they get?
I think they get like
10 minutes,
15 minutes, maybe.
10, 15 minutes. Like, I eat a lot. Like, I'm overweight. I eat a ton. Relative to the normal person, I eat ridiculously fast. My mother-in-law reminds me of that every single time we eat a meal together, how fast I eat. And it would take me 2 days, by my estimation, to do what these guys do in 10 minutes. I mean, even second place, some guy named Esper last year ate 49. And I don't... Like, if you were to say, okay, I'll give you 50 million tax-free if you ate 49 hot dogs in a day, like...
You could do it.
I'm sure I could probably get it done, but it would be not good.
No, it would not be.
That's a tough scene.
All right, next one. What if you could set the perfect 4th of July menu?
Ooh, I'm going to go barbecue there, first thing that comes off the top of my head. I mean, the second thing that came to mind was like a fish fry, shrimp fry type deal. But I'm going to go barbecue. I'm going to go ribs. I'm going to go sliced brisket. And I would like to be served with the ribs and the brisket like big dinner rolls.
Yeah.
Not like Hawaiian bread, like big dinner rolls that I can make like brisket sandwiches with. We're going to go mac and cheese with that as well. I'm going to have some watermelon available.
Baked beans, maybe?
I mean,
no?
Yes, I like baked beans. Is it got to make the list?
No,
I'm going to fill them with my ribs, brisket sandwich, mac and cheese. We'll go with some watermelon for a little bit of fruit that we'll bring in. And I think I'm debating 2 different yet very, very similar dessert options. But what we're going to settle on is homemade peach ice cream. We were thinking peach cobbler with vanilla ice cream.
Yeah.
Instead, we're just going straight peach ice cream homemade.
Okay.
That's where I am. I would be thrilled if you would chime in with that.
That's a pretty good menu. I think I would agree with that as well. I think barbecue is synonymous with July 4th, so it's gotta be barbecue. Maybe some sausage. Maybe like
I love sausage.
Maybe some jalapeno cheese sausage.
Are you like a maple sausage, like a sweet sausage fan too?
I like all kinds of sausage, but I think I prefer a sausage that has a kick to it.
Yeah.
So like a lot of times, like when I lived in Houston, they would have jalapeno pepper jack cheese stuffed sausage that was really good. So I would probably throw in and add sausage to that, and then maybe some corn on the cob is a classic choice with some butter and
despise corn,
salt.
but I understand everyone loves it.
Yeah, I don't like, it gets stuck in your teeth. It's annoying, but I do enjoy it. So I would probably add some corn in there, and then maybe some banana pudding for dessert.
Not bad.
Yep. All right, last one here. What if you were never allowed on an airplane again?
Oh, man. That's going to really damper my ability to see some things because I'm just flat not getting in a car for 14, 18, 20 hours. Like, I'm never going to California unless there's some sort of train I can take out there, which I'm sure there is. I would make the effort to drive to Chicago to go see the Cubs. But my vacation would be pretty much Gulf Shores and Destin area 30A. Like, we're not doing much else. Like, I don't envy at all the road trip. I know one of our buddies from college, he took his family, I think they had some sort of big vehicle, but he had like 3 young kids, and they quit their jobs and they drove the country. They did the whole thing for months and months and months. No, that's just not an option for me. I would be willing to get into a bed in an RV with a television if someone else was driving it.
Right.
But like, as far as like, if I'm not, then we're doing Destin, Gulf Shores, and I may take the train some, and I may drive to Chicago, but the West Coast is now is dead.
Yeah,
I'm never.
That's the thing. You can definitely do trains. I think it takes a lot longer. It's probably not as cost efficient as flying is, obviously.
I don't even know if it's worth it. I mean, how long is the train ride out there? Is 2 days?
It's probably a lot. Probably at least a couple days, I would guess.
I can get to Gulf Shores in 3.5 hours. Like,
that's true.
And that's fine with me. There's golf courses there. There's steaks there. There's cold beer there. I'm good. I'm not gonna be very traveled because the road trip life is not for me. I thoroughly enjoyed my 5 college years where we went to every football game. Literally, I went to every football game LSU played except for the Capital One Bowl in Orlando for 5 years. And we drove to Lexington, Kentucky, and Gainesville, Florida, and Little Rock, Arkansas, and Knoxville, Tennessee. We drove everywhere, and I loved it with 5 buddies and get in the car and make it happen. But those days are gone. It's over for me. I'm not doing it.
Too much. That is just you're just.
Do you have the road trip life in you? Would you like to pack it up and head and go see Mount Rushmore in Yosemite and just get in and drive to the next thing?
I drove last week when I was off, and I drove to the U.S. soccer game in Atlanta. I drove from Baton Rouge to Atlanta, and then after the game was over, drove from Atlanta to the beach, Destin area, which was about 5 hours. So it was about 7 hours to Atlanta, and then 5 from there. And I did not enjoy it very much. Now, it didn't help that the U.S. lost. That stung. It wasn't a fun experience, but I don't mind. The thing is, if I can have a comfortable car that's nice to drive and somebody else with me, I'm definitely not doing it by myself.
Oh, no.
But if you've got multiple people and you're in a nice car and it's a comfortable ride, I can do a road trip. It's not my favorite thing, but I could do it.
I've read a book where somebody saw 30 MLB games in 30 different stadiums in like 36 days. Just can't call me right on out on that one. No thank you in any way, shape, or form. That's it for What If Wednesday here on this Wednesday. We got one segment left to go. Transfer portal news that does kind of concern LSU to an extent. We'll talk about that to close out hour number 1 coming up next.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Vaughn and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. About 6 o'clock every night in the Palmer house is bath time. Myers man gets in there. There are 450,000 inflatable toys there. It's a complete disaster. He's splashing. I'm soaking wet. It's a nightmare a lot of times. If that's not the case in your house and you don't use your bathtub, lucky for you. And get rid of the bathtub. Get a glass walk-in shower with the folks at One Bath and Closets. They do tub-to-shower conversions all the time. It's simple. It's cost-effective. It changes the functionality and look of your bathroom. If you don't use that tub in your bathroom anymore, get rid of it. David Duvall and his team at One Bath and Closets are happy to do that for you. You start with that free consultation on the website. You can see the reviews from their satisfied customers. You can see pictures of their fantastic work. And that's probably what's going to be what drives you right over the edge to make it happen with the folks at One Bath and Closets. Check them out online. It's onebathandclosets.com, onebathandclosets.com.
Get the 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge app powered by Bayou Ford and tap the microphone icon to send us your thoughts in an audio message. Your message could be played on air during Off the Bench with Esther and T-Bob, The Hunt Palmer Show, and after further review with Matt Moscone.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram is taking $20,000 off new 23 Ram 1500 trucks. We're open for business in our beautiful new showroom and taking $20,000 off the powerful Ram truck. All new Bayou vehicles come with a 7-year, 100,000-mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Farming is a way of life for us. It's not something we get up in the morning and dread going do. It's just something we go to bed at night looking forward to getting up to go do. John Deere equipment is what we as farmers strive to have. It's in your blood, it's in your veins. It's just a part of who you are. Green is what we want to be in. The other tractors were acquired to patch it up to get to where you want to be. Where we want to be is in John Deere. Flip the switch and learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
The best.
It's Musso. Join us for a Wednesday edition of AFR presented by Pluckers. In for Matt. One more day. The college baseball portal deadline has passed, and we'll update the latest for the Saints and Pelicans off seasons. It's Wednesday's AFR 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Some news in the transfer portal today. Player coming out of said transfer portal, Caden Kent, utility player for Texas A&M, who was put into the lineup for the postseason when Braden Montgomery went down.
Wait, you mean Jeff Kent's son?
That's him. Cut away to Jeff Kent.
I didn't know that.
He is headed back to Texas A&M. I had told you that Caden Kent, it wasn't my reporting, Texas A&M media members all knew that Jim Schlossnagle and Caden Kent didn't necessarily see eye to eye all the time, and the thought was that he would move on, but with Jim Schlossnagle moving on and their hiring of Mike Early, everybody is back in the boat. Gavin Grahovic, Jace Laviolette, Evan Oshibek's trying to come back. We'll see what happens with Ryan Prager in the draft, but Caden Kent's the guy that we thought LSU would have a real chance to grab, and made some sense at third base for LSU moving forward. He will head back to College Station to Texas A&M to play. They've accomplished their goal. They have kept that really talented core together for one more year. Mike Early feels like a guy that should be able to amass a lot of talent in College Station, but we'll see. Caden Kent not headed to Baton Rouge, and I'm really, really hoping when we come back on the air on Thursday, that would be tomorrow, when we come back on the air on Monday, that LSU has made some waves in the transfer portal. Just incidentally, as we finish the hour with this thought, here's a mid-February segment for you right now in July. Ole Miss's baseball program is officially dead asleep. Not dead, out cold, can't be revived. Asleep. Mike Bianco's been retained. That was a poor decision that was made based on money. And their best two players, Liam Doyle and Andrew Fisher, are in the transfer portal. That's their best arm and their best bat. They're looking into the transfer portal. They're looking at the MLB draft, and you may see Riley Maddox and Mason Nichols move on. I realize that a lot of you may not know who these names are, but this is all that's left, basically, of the talent at Ole Miss. They've got a signing class that looks to be pretty good that are freshmen, but they're freshmen. Who can expect them to be great next year? They don't really have any talent left. They don't really have a backbone. Luke Hill's probably their best player remaining. He was a mediocre player for them this year. They're toast. In a league where A&M has got this kind of talent, where LSU continues to field really, really strong teams. Mississippi State got their feet back under them last year. Alabama's got a really good coach. You know what Florida is. You know what Tennessee is. Georgia was really good this year. Ole Miss is not going to win 13 league games next year, and they may not win 10. And it's a situation where they knew what they needed to do, and they never did it, and now they're going to pay the consequences for a couple of years here. the word is that Andrew Fisher is leaving because he's got one more year left and he wants to win some baseball games, and he's looking around at the guys they've gotten into the transfer portal in the locker room around him going, this team can't win. So he's leaving. And it's evident from the outside looking in. I was listening to a Chase Parham's podcast from yesterday. He covers Ole Miss, and he said, look, I think this freshman class coming in has got some really good players in it. The question is, will Mike Bianco be around long enough to see it blossom into a really good group of players? I don't know that it is. If you're looking around for some SEC baseball teams that aren't going to be very good next year in a sea of teams that are really good, look right at Oxford. That program fast asleep based on the transfer portal entries that we saw over the last 72 hours. That's it for hour number one here on a Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. If you missed any of it, you can catch it on demand. 1045ESPN.com's on demand tab, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google. Wherever you find your sound, you can certainly find us as well as on YouTube. We got a lot to get to in the second hour. Matthew Bruni's going to jump on and talk LSU opponents, rest of college football, according to Stuart Mandel, and some NFL talent under 25. Come back after SportsCenter. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
Bayou Ford has $10,000 off F-150. $10,000 off the new 2024 Ford F-150. And all new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 7-year, 100,000-mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Farming is a way of life for us. It's not something we get up in the morning and dread going do. It's just something we go to bed at night looking forward to getting up to go do. John Deere equipment is what we as farmers strive to have. So it's in your blood, it's in your veins. It's just a part of who you are. Green is what we want to be in. The other tractors were acquired to patch it up to get to where you want to be. Where we want to be is in John Deere. Flip the switch and learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
This is SportsCenter.
I'm Christine Lisi. It's official. LeBron James is returning to the Lakers. According to ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski, he's agreed on a 2-year, $104 million max deal with L.A. Player option for the 2025-2026 season has a no-trade clause. ESPN's Dave McMenamin reports Lakers agreed with Bronny James on his rookie deal, 4 years, almost $8 million. The NBA career for the eldest son of LeBron James starts at ground zero, explains ESPN NBA front office insider Bobby Marks.
He'll go to Summer League in Sacramento. He'll be with the team in Las Vegas here, but Bronny James is a developmental project. Right now, I would not expect him to see significant minutes next season with the Lakers. I wouldn't even expect to see him probably see significant minutes year 2. How he makes it in this league is to be an elite level defender right now.
Lakers hiring Nate McMillan and Scott Brooks as top assistants, giving new coach J.J. Redick 2 longtime coaches on his staff. Stanley Cup champion Panthers and center Anton Lundell agreed on a 6-year, $30 million deal. Fourth core player, Florida's locked up for the next several years.
Hey, it's your resident Super Bowl champ, Chris Canty from Unsportsmanlike. If you miss any of the shows, make sure you download the podcast and make sure to tune in every weekday at 6 a.m. right here on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I direct your attention to something quite extraordinary?
Now, the Hunt Palmer Show. The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour number 2, Tuesday edition of the... Tuesday edition. I can't keep track of the days. I got no chance. It feels like Friday. It is Wednesday. We're not back till Monday. There's days all over the place. I can't really keep up with them. I do know this. There's 1 hour left to go this week of the Hunt Palmer Show, and we are here for it. I'm looking up at the TVs we got going here in studio, and it's an LSU takeover on SEC Network. So if you're at home and you're kind of looking for something to look at on the TV screen for the next 5, 6, 7, 8 hours, LSU is taking over the SEC Network, and they're about to play LSU in Florida Game 1, that Thursday night game between those two teams. Luke Holman struck out 13 in the game. But I'm looking at the one shot to open, and it's Tom Hart, Kyle Peterson, and Ben McDonald in the booth. And Kyle Peterson was a first-team All-American at Stanford and an early draft pick in professional baseball and is a pretty big dude. And because Tom Hart and certainly Ben McDonald are bigger than him, he looks like a shrimp in the booth. He's a big guy. It's just an unfortunate circumstance where he has to stand between those two dudes. But if you're looking for something to watch on the telly over the next few hours, LSU taking over the SEC Network. All right, I want to talk a little Saints here in hour number 2. And there is a piece up on ESPN.com ranking the NFL teams under 25 talent. And the headline says the Texans and Lions lead the list. And the Texans were atrocious for a couple of years there. And they got the first pick, and they got early picks in the draft. They've taken C.J. Stroud and Will Anderson. And it certainly appears that Derek Stingley is going to be a hit as well. And that's what you've got to do when your team is that bad. You've got to hit on those early round draft picks. And it appears that Houston has done that. And it doesn't guarantee future success, but you feel pretty good about it. And we know that the Lions have done an exceptional job of drafting with some of their awful teams, which has been a problem for the Lions for years and years and years. They've missed on a lot of draft picks over the years, and then they've hit on some draft picks who have retired in their prime, which also hurts. But they've taken Penei Sewell and Aiden Hutchinson. Sam Laporta's been a hit for them. Amon-Ra St. Brown was a great find. Jahmyr Gibbs is a guy that they took early in the draft, and that's a really good young core, and we expect those two teams to be really good. I'm not breaking any news to you here that the Saints are not high up on this list. In fact, the Saints are way down toward the bottom. I'm shocked the Saints aren't at the bottom of this list, quite frankly, when you look at their roster and what it is composed of. but they're not dead last. They're actually 30th on this list. The Raiders are worse, and the Dolphins are worse. The Raiders are rated as no blue chip players under the age of 25. They've got two notable graduated players on this list, Dylan Parham, who's a guard, and Aiden O'Connell at quarterback. And Miami is dead last here, and the Dolphins have been good. They just don't have any players who are under the age threshold here. But look, Jalen Waddle's still a young guy. Austin Jackson still a young guy. Jalen Phillips, Cater Coe is older. And they don't get any credit for Devon Achane, who's only 22, because he hasn't been a full-time player for them based on injuries and what have you over there. So, look, this is not a list that suggests that the teams who have under 25 really good players are awesome and the teams that don't are terrible. That's not the point of the list. In fact, there are some shining examples while that's not true at all. The Eagles are 29th on this list, and they've had a really good team. It's not a crime to have good 28-year-old players on your team. I mean, the Chiefs are right smack dab in the middle of this thing, and they've been the best team in football because they've got a phenomenal quarterback that they can lean on far more than anything. The Chiefs here are number 14. Their only blue chip players who are under the age threshold here are Trent McDuffie and George Karlaftis. Look, we all think that they've got a pretty good thing that's going on currently in San Francisco, and the only guy they've got on this list is Brock Purdy. They're 23rd on the list. But here's the point I want to make by looking at this. It's easier to create a really good team if you're high on this list because you've got these really good players on the cheap. You know this. And that has to be New Orleans' goal number one. The Saints can't fix their issues in free agency. They don't have the money. The Saints have to fix their issues in the draft and hitting on picks. And the more Trevor Pennings you take, the worse things are going to get. You know this. The more times you take Isaiah Foskey, the harder it is to come back from this. So you've got to hope that next year when this list comes out, that Taliesin Fuanga and Kool-Aid McKinstry are blue chip players on this list. You've got to hope that Jordan Howden makes this list. You've got to hope A.T. Perry makes this list. Because all of a sudden, if those young players who have a lot of talent start to hit, and I didn't even mention Brian Brzee, then you've got years of control on their contracts, and you've got real talent. Right now, the only player that the Saints have is rated as blue chip in this age threshold is Chris Olave, who's coming off back-to-back years of 1,000-yard receivings. Now, there are some guys who are just over the threshold who are very good players. Cesar Ruiz is a good player. Levante Taylor is a good player. Paulson Adebo is a very good player. Pete Werner, we think, is a good player. Ruiz needs to play better. Taylor might be leaned on more. Pete Werner might be leaned on more and needs to take more of that workload from Demario Davis and complement him. But they've got some young guys who can play. But you've got to get more. The Saints need to have 4 or 5 of these blue chips if they're going to climb out of this quickly. Now, you start talking about taking 5 years to fix this. Well, I don't care. I'm talking about the way to get this done quickly. And the way to get this done quickly is to use draft picks and hit on them. And it'd be nice if you could find some diamonds in the rough in round 5 and 6, but the reality of the deal is you've got to hit home runs early. And you've got that ability. Fuanga might be a home run. I still, when I think about Isaiah Fuanga, I think about Jason Kelsey. And I think about the podcast he did with Travis that they do that's blown up. And I think about the fact that he didn't even know Taliesin Fuanga's name. He said, I was watching the draft, and the Saints took some kid out of Oregon State, and I saw one pass rep set and one pull on run block, and I went, okay. And quite frankly, I can sit here and give you all the opinions you want to hear, but none of my opinions on offensive line play are going to hold a candle to Jason Kelsey's, okay? That guy's going to the Hall of Fame in first class. And he thinks he's going to be great. And so that's awesome. And if you keep Olave there and Brazil becomes a real impact player in the middle, and Fuanga is the guy that you hope he is, and Kool-Aid McKinstry takes over, and you're able to move on from Marshawn Lattimore and free up some money and get some more youth in, like, it can happen quickly. But what it takes is an exceptional job from the front office. And it takes an exceptional job from the front office doing something they don't do a lot of, which is drafting a lot of guys instead of moving up for one and letting guys walk and not extending contracts up in past people's primes. It's not the MO of the Saints. So, again, because the Saints are 30th on this list doesn't mean they're in jail. I don't think the Eagles are in jail. I don't think the Chiefs are in jail. I don't think 49ers are in jail. Like, none of these teams are ranked way up towards the top. And by the same vein, Atlanta is high up on this. They're 4th because they've got Michael Penix as a blue chip player who's not even going to be their starting quarterback, Bijan Robinson, Drake London, Kyle Pitts. Like, all those guys, yeah, that's nice, but the Falcons stink. I don't think anybody thinks the Bears are knocking on the Super Bowl's door. They're number 5 on this list. I don't think anybody's wild about the Cardinals and what's going on there. They're 6 on this list. So this is not a list of, teams that are supposed to win 13 games because they've got good players who are under 25 years old. It just tells you that these are the teams that have good players on great contracts because they're young. And the Saints don't. And that's what makes it a little bit hard. But we understand that the Saints look to be doing things a little bit differently, and maybe this looks completely different 12 months from now when it comes out. And it comes out annually. And that's the Saints' best hope, is to get further up on this list moving forward, because they're not going to change their fortune with free agents. Last year, incidentally, the Saints were 23rd. You move on from Ruiz, Taylor, Debo, Werner. You move back to 30th. But we'll see. That's just one person's opinion over there on ESPN.com. If you're looking for our Saints content, you can find that at Hunt on Saints on YouTube. All Saints all year long. Appreciate it if you subscribe up to the channel. That helps us out a heck of a lot. When we come back, interesting stuff from Matthew Bruni on LSU's football opponents coming up this fall. He's written an entire series on the Bengal Tiger over there on 3. And we'll chat with Matthew Bruni about what he thinks from year one of Kalen DeBoer, Ole Miss's entire transfer journey. What does he think Mike Elko's team has, and what's Oklahoma got moving into the Southeastern Conference? We'll talk about all that with Matthew Bruni coming up next.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show.
Visit LeBear's Baton Rouge Casino this summer for exciting live sports action. We've got the biggest screens, and ESPN Bet is live in Louisiana. Plus, Pin Play Rewards members can win up to $500 in pin cash every single week. So visit pinplaysports.com/cover5 today and register for your chance to play and win. Not a member? Get the Pin Play app today. LeBear's Baton Rouge Casino is your live sports headquarters. Bring your crew for all the action. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 877-770-STOP.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared towards seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals.
But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs, even in the case of an after-hours emergency.
Independence Day from all of us at Live at Lunch. We're taking Thursday and Friday off, but we'll be back Monday, and Jimmy and Charlie will be hosting once again at Walk-Ons in Bruley, the West Side, as we recap the sporting weekend. Live at Lunch, 11 a.m. Monday on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
A lot of recruiting news expected over the next 48 hours for LSU football. I kind of touched on that at the beginning of the show today. And if you're looking for recruiting coverage, no better spot to look than the Bengal Tiger. Part of the On3 network, Shay Dixon and Billy Embody do an awesome job looking at the football recruiting side of things over there. Matthew Bruni does a great job with the basketball recruiting side of things and covering the teams over at LSU, and looking forward to this football season here this coming fall. Matthew Bruni looked through the entirety of LSU's schedule and kind of looked through the opponents and what LSU can expect as we sit here in the summer. So to talk about all that, we bring on Matthew Bruni via the Jim's Firearms Hotline. We'll chat with him about that. Matthew, thanks for the time. How are you?
Hey, Hunt. I'm doing great. Just trying to get as much work as I can get done today so I don't have to think about anything tomorrow.
That's the goal. I've only got 43 minutes left, and then I'm doing no work for the next 4 days. So that's a nice feeling. Let's talk about some of the work that you've already done in kind of looking at the opponents for LSU. We'll start just in the Southeastern Conference. I think a lot of people are very curious about Alabama in the post-Saban era, Kalen DeBoer's first year. Some familiar faces, but also some departures from that team. I want to speak first to their offense with Jalen Milroe. Are you prepared to say that he could be a Heisman contender at the end of this football season?
I think it is a pretty open field in terms of the Heisman. As you know, if you look around the odds and whatnot, I think a lot of different quarterbacks are in the conversation. I don't know if it would shock me, but I would be fairly surprised just from passing perspective if he took a step forward the way that Jaden Daniels took a step forward. You can't expect that from a quarterback that has had the kind of inconsistencies that he's had. Now, I will say the legs is obviously what gives him a chance to really be on at least close to what Jaden Daniels was last year in theory. But, yeah, I'm not sure offensively if he's going to be the one that gets him there. They've had kind of a shallow receiving group the past couple of years. Maybe disappointing is a better word. So I'm interested to see the skill position guys that they have this season.
Yeah, it's interesting that group has been maligned over the last couple of years in Tuscaloosa, and Jermaine Burton made a lot of really good plays for them. But it's been We haven't seen that run like we saw that ridiculous run they had back 4 or 5 years ago of wide receivers. You said you were curious about it, but I mean, do you anticipate that being a little bit of a liability for Alabama, or do you think there are just some names we don't quite know yet?
I think there's some names we don't quite know yet. Like you said, Jermaine Burton went 80th overall in the NFL draft this past year. They added transfer Jeremy Bernard, who can play a little bit. I think we're far away from the years, like you mentioned, of them pumping out first-round receivers and multiple ones every year. But I do think that they're going to have enough talent at running back, Justice Hayes, and at receiver to give Milroe some options and give them some potential offensively. Where honestly, last year especially, they didn't have much, and the year before that, it was really a lot of just Jahmyr Gibbs.
Alabama will be coming to Tiger Stadium this year, as will Ole Miss. I have a feeling when we get to SEC Media Days here in a couple of weeks that a lot of people are going to be buying Lane Kiffin's program with Jackson Dart, a lot of returners, and then a huge transfer portal haul. Are you buying Ole Miss as a significant playoff threat, as an SEC championship threat, as a national championship threat?
I definitely wouldn't go as far as national title threat, but it's hard to not buy this team on paper just because there are so many good, proven college football players on it. And I definitely think this game for LSU is going to be fascinating in Baton Rouge. So, yeah, if you go down the list of just the players that they've added, start with like Walter Nolan on the defensive line, who was a 5-star guy at A&M and played really well for them in his time there. Juice Wells, receiver from South Carolina, is really good. Princely, I can never say his last name, Umanmilen from Florida is really good. So, yeah, you just go down the list. They added a lot of high-level starters, and then you return Jackson Dart and enough talent offensively to really, I think, keep pace with everybody in the conference pretty much.
We know that a lot of people think the Grove Collective is among the best in the sport in terms of their organization, their ability to get things done. Do you think that it's sustainable for them to continue year over year to pull this kind of a transfer portal haul, or this kind of, we've got a quarterback coming back, kind of like the talent, we're going to push the chips right now?
I'm not sure. It definitely feels like an all-in type season from Ole Miss. I will say the one thing that, LSU fans and a lot of fans in general that aren't, fans of Ole Miss will say this isn't sustainable, obviously, because the transfer portal, all good coaches want to build through the high school ranks. My problem with that, or my rebuttal to that, is it's Ole Miss. How far are you really going to get recruiting just high school players every single year? Like, you're not going to be at the level of LSU, Alabama, and so on. So you have to kind of take an unconventional route. And Lane Kiffin is the king of taking unconventional routes, and I think he's gone about this perfectly. I think you have to be unique, and he has the backing of their boosters, obviously, to do this. And I think that they've picked a really good year to go all in, because I don't even think their schedule's that difficult either. So I think they're very much a playoff team.
Florida's schedule is difficult. Do you think Billy Napier survives this based on your look at the Gators this summer?
Oh, man, that schedule. Them in Oklahoma, it was, just looking through it, I kind of felt bad for them, because you just don't see the wins really on the schedule. I think that Vegas has them at 4.5, and honestly, that could go either way. So, because even Florida's non-conference, it's like UCF, Florida State,
Miami.
And Miami, yeah. So it's going to be tough. I'm not sure he survives it, especially if they end with 3 or 4 wins. The talent, it's kind of limiting. I'm not sure that they have enough playmakers, especially losing Ricky Pearsall and Trevor Etienne to really keep pace. The defense wasn't good last year, so yeah, there's a lot of questions there. I'm not sure Billy makes it out of there.
You mentioned Oklahoma's schedule, and I wasn't planning to go to them next, but we'll do that anyway, because I saw this on the SEC Network on yesterday, and I went, whoa, I didn't realize that. This will be a talking point in Dallas coming up in a couple of weeks. But the end of their schedule is at Ole Miss. This is Oklahoma. At Ole Miss, then they play Maine. Then they're at Missouri, home Alabama, at LSU. I mean, that's a nightmare. they better sock away some wins early. By the way, they play Texas and I think maybe Tennessee. So they better get some wins early, or else they're going to be in some trouble late. How do you think Oklahoma handles the transition into year one in the league?
Yeah, the funny thing is I actually like their roster in total. The biggest question is the quarterback position. A lot of people should probably know Jackson Arnold, who comes from the DFW area, was a 5-star guy. I loved him out of high school. In his only start last year, though, he threw 3 interceptions against Arizona in the bowl game. So he's going to have to be really sharp. Like you said, the schedule is brutal right there. Vegas has them at 7.5 wins, and I would argue they're just as good this year as they were last year. So it's going to be a hard reality for some Oklahoma fans, I think, to just kind of maybe settle in this year. But it all hinges to me on Jackson Arnold at quarterback. If he's as good as maybe he was, in high school, and he could be, then yeah, they could be pushing for 8-9 wins. But if not, it could get ugly.
Speaking of quarterbacks, Connor Wigman's one that I like a lot. He's going to be handed the keys to Mike Elko's offense over in College Station. A lot of transfers out from that star-studded class, but what do you think about the Aggies roster in year one under Mike Elko?
Yeah, I'm also pretty high on Connor Wigman. I also, they've returned some solid defensive talent. Shamar Turner, I know they lost Walter Nolan and some guys, but Shamar Turner, Shamar Stewart on the defensive line, Torian York at linebacker. I like that group. Now, the question is offensively, they added Reuben Owens, or they have Reuben Owens back, who was a 5-star at running back. I think he gets a lot of carries. But ultimately, they, lost Evan Stewart to Oregon, lost Walter Nolan, like I said, and lost a few offensive linemen that I wasn't expecting. So I think Elko is a really good coach, and I think the defense is going to be pretty solid. Ultimately, the ceiling, it depends on Connor Wigman and, if they have enough weapons there to be explosive, which they obviously haven't been.
LSU's SEC opener is South Carolina on the road in Columbia at 11 o'clock Central Time over there. We know that Spencer Rattler's in black and gold down the road now. What do you feel about Shane Beamer's program?
I'm not very high on them.
Yep.
Lost Spencer Rattler, lost Xavier Legette, and even with those two, the offense was not good. About 26 points per game. Just really struggled running the ball, 131st in the country in rush offense EPA. So I struggle to see offensively where they're going to be able to go with the new quarterback and obviously a new receiver. Wide receiver 1, but yeah, I think their win total was 5.5. I think their schedule is a little bit easier, especially in the non-conference outside of Clemson. But yeah, I think LSU should be able to take care of business, even though I believe that game's on the road.
Yeah, they better. 11 o'clock in the morning over in South Carolina. They need to get that one done there in September. Matthew, we appreciate some time. If you want to check out Matthew's thoughts on all of LSU's opponents, you can do that over on the Bengal Tiger, part of the On3 network. He's previewed them all over the last week and a half or so. We appreciate some time, and enjoy the 4th.
Yeah, thanks, Hunt. Anytime.
Mandel Bruni, part of the Bengal Tiger over there on 3. If you were here at the second segment of the show, I talked about the SEC in this Stuart Mandel piece about the future of college football, the new world with the new playoff and the new conferences. And I went through the SEC and kind of some teams that are positively affected and some teams that may be negatively affected. And I thought it was interesting. And I'm going to do in the next segment talk about some of the teams around the country that have had big impacts with this brave new world of college football. And we'll talk about a little bit of that coming up next on the Hunt Palmer Show.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show.
Audio Video Security Solutions, AVSSLA.com. I know a lot of folks spending a lot of time outside on the 4th of July, whether it's in the pool, whether it's out there at the barbecue pit. And if you are tomorrow and it's quiet because you don't have any tunes playing, well, that's your fault because you didn't call Audio Video Security Solutions. Mitchell Fisher and his team happy to come over and set you up with some awesome audio equipment outdoors so that while you're enjoying your outdoor activities or cooking, you can hear some great tunes. You don't have to bring your phone and set it there so it overheats and it doesn't work. Get the real equipment in that you can actually control with an app on your phone. We do it at our home, and I've just loved all the work that Audio Video Security Solutions did at our house. make that phone call to Mitchell Fisher. This is his cell phone number. He's the owner of the company. We're not giving you some line that maybe a receptionist is there. Maybe she's no. This is Mitchell Fisher's cell phone number. 225-439-7920. You can also check them out online at avssla.com. They're the People's Choice Award for the best vendor at the Parade of Homes this year. Let them show you why with some of their fantastic work on the audio side, on the video side, on the security side. You can see them on Instagram, avss_BR, and again online at avssla.com.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
There's nothing chill about a hot, sweaty line. Unless you add Mountain Cold Refreshment. Coors Light. Choose chill.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial properties. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Farming is a way of life for us. It's not something we get up in the morning and dread going do. It's just something we go to bed at night looking forward to getting up to go do. John Deere equipment is what we as farmers strive to have. It's in your blood, it's in your veins. It's just a part of who you are. Green is what we want to be in. The other tractors were acquired to patch it up to get to where you want to be. Where we want to be is in John Deere. Flip the switch and learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, hardy plank, and vinyl siding. But our #1 product is always customer satisfaction.
So join us for a Wednesday edition of AFR presented by Pluckers. In for Matt. One more day. The college baseball portal deadline has passed, and we'll update the latest for the Saints and Pelicans off seasons. It's Wednesday's AFR 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Coming July 15th, the 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge 2K a Day Summer Cash Giveaway brought to you by Citizens Bank and Trust. Stay tuned for details on the word of the day coming the entire week of July 15th and your chance to win extra cash for the summer.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You know, whether you love it or hate it, college football has changed. You may fully embrace the transfer portal and NIL and the new conferences. You may think all of it sucks. But either way, it is what it is. And Stuart Mandel gave his shot at taking all the teams in the new Power Four with a new 12-team playoff and saying whether or not they were positively or negatively effective. If it was positive, it was +1, +2, +3, +4, +5 being the best. If it's negative, same thing, -1, -2, -5 being the absolute worst as in terms of being affected. And I did the SEC a little bit earlier and saw eye to eye with Stewart on a lot of this. So let's go through some of the other conferences and look at some of the teams that have been significantly affected by the new world of college football. And we'll start in the ACC, where he gives a +5 to SMU, and I completely agree. I'm not here to tell you that SMU is about to become a national power. I don't believe that. But they had no chance of doing anything where they were. Now they're in a real league with Florida State and Clemson and North Carolina and Miami. Like, that's real sports. And they've got a ton of money. They've got so much money, they literally bought their way into the ACC, said, just let us in. We won't even take any of your TV money. We'll fund that. We got it. I actually read a story that Ross Dellinger wrote, and I talked about it on the air a year ago, where he talked about the room that those boosters sat in, where they had to come up with X amount of money, which was hundreds of millions, and they said they approved it in 5 minutes. Yeah, that's good. Where do we sign? When do we start writing the checks? That's a powerful thing this day and age, and I find the irony and the humor in the fact that SMU got railroaded by having too much money and using it on players 35 years ago, 40 years ago, and now they can jump right back in the game. I think it's reasonable to think SMU could become relevant in that state with that money in a real league. It's not the SEC or the Big Ten, but it is real sports. It's not the American. It's not whatever else they were in, the Sun. I don't even know what league they've been in. That's the point. I know what league they're in now, and that, I agree, is a +5 for them. From where they were 10 years ago to where they are now, that's a far, far cry. They gave a +3 to Clemson and Florida State, and I was kind of curious about that because they're both trying so hard to get out of the ACC. But as he writes, and it makes a lot of sense, he says, look, would you rather live on the bubble in the SEC, or would you rather have the opportunity to win this league, which is watered down and not that great, and if you do win it, you're a top 4 seed with a bye? That is pretty enticing, and I think that's a good thing in a 12-team playoff. Even if they don't win the league, you've got a chance to get in if you lose a game or two. So I agree with that. He gave -4 to Stanford and Cal, and I'm completely with you. Stanford's situation with transfers, they only allow a limited amount. That hurts you in this whole deal. And then Cal, like, nobody cares about sports. All their opponents are the entirety of the country away. You're not going to fund it. It's just not going to work, and it's going to be a bad situation for Cal. He actually wrote in the piece, like, would they have been better off just hanging out with Oregon State and Washington State instead of jumping into this ACC? And I don't know that that's completely false. Like, I'm sure Cal's endowment is large, but none of that's going to be directed at making sure your football team's good. Nobody out there cares. So I would agree with that from an ACC perspective. In the Big Ten, Ohio State and Michigan get positive marks, +4 for Ohio State, +3 for Michigan. More money, more opportunity to get in the playoff. You figure they're going to get in a lot, and I think that's perfectly fine. There have been years where Michigan and Ohio State were playing at the end of the year. One team gets a chance to play for a national championship, the loser does not. That case doesn't really exist in those situations anymore, because if they both show up in that last weekend undefeated or with one loss, they're right there on the bubble even if they lose. So I would agree, positive for them. This is a really good point and not one that I would consider because I don't spend a lot of time thinking about Iowa football, but he gives them a -4 here. And the reason is because Iowa football has lived in this bubble where they play in the Big Ten West, and as long as you beat Wisconsin and beat Northwestern and handle your business against Minnesota and you win those games against Nebraska or whoever the case may be, then you go to the Big Ten Championship and you lose by 40 to Michigan, Ohio State. It's fine. You've won 10 games and you've done your job. Well, now the Big Ten West doesn't exist, and you've got to compete with everybody. You are in the same division as Ohio State now. You are in the same division as Penn State now. You are in the same division as Michigan now. And oh, by the way, here comes Oregon. Here comes USC. Here comes Washington. And you got to play them too. Iowa's kind of joyride into 10-win land is over. And I don't think anybody cares because nobody really wants to watch Iowa play football anyway. But it's a good point that I had not really considered. He gives a -4 to UCLA too, a very negatively impacted UCLA program. As he writes, it's a basketball school, and I would agree that it is a basketball school. because nobody really cares about their football. I mean, y'all were here 2 years, 3 years, whatever it was, 3-4 years ago when LSU went out there, and they were literally giving away tickets to any high school student in Los Angeles. All of them. I mean, that's just ridiculous, and nobody really cares. Chip Kelly left there to go call plays at Ohio State as the head coach. I would tend to agree. Nobody really cares at UCLA, so you're now in a football world, and your opponents are a long way away. I don't know if that's great for them. And he gives USC a -2. The reason is because you were really the brand of the West, even though Washington and Oregon have enjoyed more success recently. And now you're probably third on the totem pole at best because Ohio State and Michigan are better than you. And so I would tend to agree that, USC going to be fine, more money for them, and as long as they've got the right coach, which we'll see if Lincoln Riley is or he's not, but they'll be okay. But they're not the top dog anymore, and I think that's pretty obvious. So -2 for USC. And then we go to the Big 12. The biggest positive impact that Stuart Mandel sees is BYU, and that's because BYU has played as an independent recently. They played in bad leagues before in the Mountain West and whatever, and now you're talking about a team in a league that's got an auto bid to the playoff. So that's just a positive. It is what it is. You've got a home, and BYU has fielded some good football teams and some not so good football teams. But if you can win a watered down Big 12, you're in the playoff, and that's better than BYU could have hoped recently. I mean, this is a team that was 16th after a shortened COVID season in 2020. That's knocking on the door of a playoff now, and it's nowhere near back then. +4 for Houston. We have seen Houston make moves in basketball. They're very, very good. We know that they've got an absurdly rich donor in Fertitta, and they're in a talent-rich spot with a lot of money behind it. And, does anybody think they're going to overtake Texas and Texas A&M and, LSU and Oklahoma in that area of the country? No. Do you have to? No, you just got to win the league, and they certainly can. And the Tom Herman teams were good, and they challenged some teams early, and, you've seen some moments here and there for Texas, but a far cry from what they were in the Southwest Conference, and they've been left for dead since the Southwest Conference disbanded. Now they've got access to the football playoff to go with a really strong basketball program, so I think that's a reasonable +4 for them. Then a -3, not a big deal, but to the Big 12, like Arizona State. As he writes, it's basically a professional market there. Nobody's really that fired up about Arizona State athletics. It's a professional town, and now you're jumping in with a bunch of teams that nobody really cares about in that league, so it's just kind of a tough sell there. I don't think anybody spends a lot of time thinking about Arizona State football around here, but I think that's reasonable. To kind of recap, SMU, Ohio State, BYU, Houston, big winners. Among the big losers outside of the SEC, Cal, Stanford, Iowa, UCLA. Those teams, you can see a reason why they could suffer in terms of football. I think it's fascinating. And again, I'm okay with it. I'm not going to spend a lot of time worrying about Iowa football. I'm not going to spend a lot of time worrying about Houston or Arizona State football. It is what it is. It's a new era. Here are the rules. Go play. I think LSU is going to be just fine. But some schools have got to be looking around going, I don't know if this is the best thing based on what we had 20 years ago. Is what it is. Change affects different people in different ways. So that's a look at some college football here on this Wednesday. We got one segment left to go, and then it's holiday time. We'll get to that coming up next.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show.
Tell you every day about Evolve Physical Therapy. Robbie Bolton and his team at Evolve Physical Therapy are the physical therapy clinic in Baton Rouge. If you've been injured, maybe it's a youth athlete that's been injured, maybe you're just somebody in your 60s who hurt yourself playing golf or out on the pickleball court. Either way, you can go see the team at Evolve Physical Therapy. Robbie tells me that a lot of times folks come to him because they're dissatisfied with their physical therapy experience somewhere else. They've gone somewhere that they were instructed to go. It hasn't been very hands-on. The person in charge just gave them some exercises and walked away. If that's been your experience and you're looking for something different, Evolve. Go to Evolve Physical Therapy. Robbie and his team are going to spend the entire session right there with you. They're going to do the isokinetic testing. They're going to do the soft tissue manipulation. They're going to do the dry needling, the cupping. They're going to help you every step of the way to get you back to being your active self. As Robbie says, we want active people in here who want to get back to it. And that can range a lot of different ages, but they all end with the same result, and that's getting back to what they love doing. Check him out online at evolvept.com. Go see him on Starring near Highland Road. It's Robbie Bolton and his team at Evolve Physical Therapy. evolvept.com.
Get the 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge app powered by Bayou Ford and tap the microphone icon to send us your thoughts in an audio message. Your message could be played on air during Off the Bench with Esther and T-Bob, The Hunt Palmer Show, and after further review with Matt Moscone.
Farming is a way of life for us. It's not something we get up in the morning and dread going do. It's just something we go to bed at night looking forward to getting up to go do. John Deere equipment is what we as farmers strive to have. So it's in your blood, it's in your veins. It's just a part of who you are. Green is what we want to be in. The other tractors were acquired to patch it up to get to where you want to be. Where we want to be is in John Deere. Flip the switch and learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs, even in the case of an after-hours emergency. The light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, party plank, and vinyl siding. But our #1 product is always customer satisfaction.
Happy Independence Day from all of us at Live at Lunch. We're taking Thursday and Friday off, but we'll be back Monday, and Jimmy and Charlie will be hosting once again at Walk-Ons in Bruley, the West Side, as we recap the sporting weekend. Live at Lunch, 11 a.m. Monday on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
I mean, we got some breaking news here, Beck. Big stuff.
Yeah?
The University of Alabama has self-reported 11 NCAA violations.
Oh, I thought you were joking.
Let me tell you about a couple of these. Men's and women's swimming and diving programs held a year-end banquet on a required off day. Men's golf non-athletic staff member attended 2 meals where recruits were present. Gymnastics staff had contact with a potential recruit before the permissible date. Shut the gymnastics program down. A baseball recruit made an official visit before being added to the NCAA Eligibility Center's institutional request list.
Well, that's not surprising.
I will not stand for this. Shut it down in Tuscaloosa. The SEC now has 15 programs. We'll let Alabama on in further notice, right?
That's pretty bad. Yeah, that's some
What were they thinking having that year-end banquet on a required off day?
Terrible. And how could those golf guys have, was it a lunch they had with recruits?
They had the non-athletic staff member, I don't know, maybe an academic member, attended 2 meals where recruits were present.
Unbelievable.
That is, it's tough times over there in Tuscaloosa.
They should probably get the death penalty for that.
Shut it down! Let's play Take It or Leave It.
All right, first one here. 4th of July as a top 5 holiday. Take it or leave it.
Top 5? How many holidays even are there?
I was going to say, make it top 3. How about that?
It's not top 3.
Okay.
I think I've been pretty firm in my stance. Christmas number 1, Thanksgiving number 2. I've got, personally, Memorial Day as number 3.
Yeah.
It's the beginning of summer. I have a great weekend that weekend every year because I play in a golf tournament in Shreveport, and it's selection day for the baseball tournament. And plus, it's a 3-day weekend guaranteed. I would put Labor Day and Memorial Day ahead of 4th of July because they're guaranteed 3-day weekends. We got lucky this weekend because it's this Thursday, and then the administrative staff here was nice enough to give us Friday off, so it's a 4-day weekend, which is great. But last year was on a Wednesday. That's boned. I don't need a Wednesday off. That's great, but it's back and forth too quickly.
Yep.
So Memorial Day and Labor Day, I would probably put 4th of July in there 5th. In front of Mardi Gras.
Easter.
Easter too. Easter, you get Friday off there. 4th of July.
It's always
it's a top 5 holiday.
Yeah.
It's 5th. It's in front of Easter.
I'm with you about Memorial Day too. And plus July 4th is always extremely hot. It's always at least 100 degrees.
I'm gonna sit in the lake and drink a true.
Okay, but would you not prefer Memorial Day where it's gonna be 80 most likely?
I mean, Memorial Day is not 80. I play in that golf tournament. It's 92.
Okay.
Sure. And I think the high tomorrow in Baton Rouge is 91. So it's hot. It's fine. I don't care about hot. It's hot. I can play golf. I can sit in the lake. I can do whatever I need to do. I'm giving it top 5. I don't mean to offend with the meaning of the holiday. Easter, pretty important deal in Christianity. But in terms of activities, give me 4th of July.
All right, next one here. Roman candle wars. Take it or leave it.
I'm leaving this. I don't. First of all, I'm a wuss. I'm not a rule breaker. I don't have a lot of edge. I hate the concept of getting fights and wrestling. I hate all that kind of stuff. And the risk reward on Roman candle wars sucks. The reward is, hit you with made you jump with a firework. The risk is significant physical harm, eye injuries. OCU Manura's blown, or no, not OCU Manura. Jason Pierre-Paul is blown. Is no. That is a bad deal. Fireworks, I'm for. Bodily harm, especially intentionally with Roman candle wars, I'm out. And you can call me a fun sponge or just absolutely pitiful, but I just don't care about all that stuff.
Yeah, Roman candle wars, it's a bit much. I think getting shot by a ball of fire is just not something that should happen to anyone.
Look, you're talking to a guy who refused to play tackle football with his friends growing up because I didn't really want to get tackled without pads on. And I was the one guy who didn't break his arm playing tackle football like all my other buddies did. I would play all-time quarterback, so I couldn't get tackled. So you're looking at a snapshot of the toughness that I displayed throughout my 36 years. There is none, and I will not be doing Roman candle wars.
Hunt, noted tough guy. Moving on, hamburgers over hot dogs. Take it or leave it.
Got to take that all day. I mean, I love a good hot dog, especially one on the grill. You got a good char on it. I'm pro hot dog, but a burger is superior. It's beef. It's just better. But I do love a dog, and if there are dogs tomorrow, I'm not in charge of the menu. I'll have one. But I'm pro burger for sure.
All right, last.
Let me go back.
Okay.
Let me go back. There are settings where I will prefer a dog. If I'm at Alec Box Stadium.
Yeah, you want a dog.
I'm going to get a dog, not because that's what baseball does, but because I just don't know that that's my favorite cheeseburger. And I'm probably just going to have a dog because that's just not my favorite burger. If you're getting a quality one of either side, give me the burger. But if you're doing something that may be on the lower quality end, I'll take the dog.
All right, last one here. Bronny James got a 4-year guaranteed deal worth $7 million, nearly $7 million. Take it or leave it.
I'm gonna leave this, and I don't have a choice. I want to say, I'm fully aware that LeBron James is really good at basketball, and that he plays for the Lakers.
He does,
and that his influence was heavy on them selecting his son and getting this contract. All of that being said, and I understand all of it, I don't get this at all. I do not understand taking the 7th man off of USC's mediocre basketball team, who is clearly not an NBA player, and guaranteeing him nearly $7 million as some sort of thank you to LeBron or some sort of please stay to LeBron. I read Jeff Goodman wrote that the 55th pick in last year's draft got a two-way deal worth $700,000. This is nuts. This is beyond my comprehension, and I'm not like mad about it. I don't care what the Lakers do with $7 million, but it feels like it's so far over and beyond what is necessary. I don't get it. I mean, do you have a different take on that?
No, it doesn't make much sense. Considering LeBron he re-signed for 2 more years, so you would expect that after those 2 years he might retire or move somewhere else. So it's a bit strange that they would do this. And I don't know that it's all guaranteed, but a 4-year deal is just surprising considering...
For a second-round pick who
can't
play?
A second rounder, yeah, it doesn't make much sense.
Whatever. That's it for Take It or Leave It. If you missed any of the show today, catch it on demand, 1045ESPN.com's on demand tab, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, wherever you find your sound, and of course on YouTube. Thanks to Matthew Burney for talking some LSU. We talked a little bit of Saints as well. Very, very much hope that all of you have a safe, and happy 4th of July. We are back on Monday with another edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Breck